Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get to those crucial insights. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, it's been unfolding for decades, but recently took a really dramatic turn: the conflict between Iran and Israel. Our mission is to really dig into the sources, understand how we went from this long, drawn-out shadow war to, well, open, direct conflict. It's complex, and honestly, some of the things we found are quite eye-opening. How did two nations, once allies, actually reach this point?
Yeah, and what's truly compelling here is exactly that progression you mentioned. For so many years, it was all quite subtle, wasn't it? Proxy fights, these incredibly precise covert ops. But what we've seen very recently is this undeniable shift.
Mhm.
Direct military action. It makes you ask, what really pushed these shadow struggles out into the open? What changed the whole game?
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Sure.
If we look at the sources, the roots really go back to 1979, the Iranian Revolution. That's the moment the Shah's regime ends, the Islamic Republic is born, and Iran just fundamentally transforms. It went from being essentially a Cold War ally of Israel to what its new leaders openly called a bitter enemy. That's quite a turnaround, geopolitically speaking.
It absolutely is. And that ideological shift, well, it set the stage for everything that followed, what we now call the Shadow War. This period, stretching from the 80s right up to the early 2020s. And during that time, the conflict mostly played out indirectly. You had Iran backing groups like Hezbollah, Hamas.
The proxies, yeah.
Exactly. And on the other side, Israel wasn't idle. They engaged in some very sophisticated covert stuff. The sources often bring up Stuxnet back in 2010. That was a huge deal.
Oh, the cyber attack.
Precisely, a highly advanced cyber weapon aimed squarely at Iran's nuclear centrifuges. It showed warfare was changing, fought without traditional weapons.
So Stuxnet really showed the cyber front was serious. But for years, the main conflict stayed, well, below that threshold of direct military fighting. But moving into the 2020s, that started to change. And this is where it gets really interesting. The whole shadow war dynamic begins to shift quite dramatically. Our sources point to Iran's Operation True Promise in April 2024. And this wasn't just another proxy attack. It was a strategic pivot for Iran. They dropped the plausible deniability. It was their first direct missile and drone strike targeting Israeli military bases. A clear challenge.
Exactly right. It signaled Iran was now willing to use its own military forces directly, completely changed the rules. And then, just a few months later, October 2024, they launched Operation True Promise D6. We're talking around 200 ballistic missiles fired.
200. Wow.
Yeah. The sources describe it as a large-scale direct attack. It clearly marked a new, much more dangerous phase: open confrontation.
And this rapid escalation just kept building until, by June 2025, it was undeniably open war. On June 13th, Israel carried out these precision strikes deep inside Iran. They hit military sites, yes, but also sensitive nuclear facilities in Natanz and Tehran. And the targeting was specific sources say top IRGC commanders, the Revolutionary Guard.
A key part of their military structure.
And even nuclear scientists were killed. It seemed very deliberate, aimed at degrading their command and their strategic programs.
And Iran's reaction was, well, immediate and widespread. Missile and drone attacks lit up sirens across Israel, medical emergencies were declared, and shockingly, one strike hit the Soroka Medical Center in Beersheba, a civilian hospital.
Unbelievable.
Israel then hit back even harder, deeper strikes into cities like Isfahan, Natanz, Arak. They went after media offices, radar installations, critical infrastructure. It became this intense, dangerous back and forth, direct hit for direct hit.
And that intense exchange then pulled in another major player. This whole thing just kept escalating. It culminated on June 22nd, 2025, with the United States entering the conflict. The Pentagon confirmed it, 125 aircraft involved.
125, that's a significant force.
Absolutely. Deploying bomblets and bunker busters on key Iranian sites.
Yeah.
We're talking Fordo, that underground facility,
fortified, yeah.
and Natanz, their main enrichment complex, plus sites in Isfahan. This wasn't symbolic. This was a major expansion, bringing a superpower directly into the fight. So, stepping back, what does this all mean for you listening? We've seen this incredibly fast acceleration, a conflict simmering for decades, mostly in the shadows, suddenly explodes from proxies and covert ops into open war, pulling in global powers, all in a startlingly short time. It's quite a stark reminder of how quickly things can change on the world stage.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of drastic shift, well, it leaves us with a really crucial question, doesn't it? What are the potential long-term ripple effects for global security, for the international balance of power? How might these events reshape alliances, stability in the region, maybe even the future of warfare itself for years to come? Definitely something to think about as this continues to unfold.